I'm Nora Bennett, 32, a wedding photographer in Austin, Texas, and my worst flaw? I stay loyal long after love dies. My sister stole my fiancé, mailed me a front row invitation, and dared me to smile. She thought I'd watch quietly, but I didn't. I stood up. And I wasn't alone. If you're watching, please like and subscribe. It helps more than you know. Have you ever been blindsided by a family member? Tell me where you're watching from and what you would have done, because my hands were shaking when I chose my next move, and I want your honest take. People often say that betrayal has a distinct smell. For me, it was peonies. They were in the first photo I ever took of Liam, the man I once planned to marry. We were on a spring job together, me behind the camera, him wrangling lighting cables, my sister Ivy playing assistant for the day because she wanted to learn. I remember the bouquet in Liam's hands, the joke he made, the heat that bloomed in my chest when he looked at me like I was the only sharp thing in a soft world. Fast forward 3 years, same peonies, different day. A heavy envelope dropped through my mail slot with a shush that felt like a warning. My cat startled. I didn't. I'd already learned to expect the worst. The paper was creamy, expensive, glowing with the kind of gold-embossed arrogance you can feel before you touch it. I slid a finger under the flap and pulled out the invitation. Ivy Bennett and Liam Ward request the honor of your presence. My name sat alone beneath it, written in Ivy's looping hand. Nora, front row seat. The room tilted, all soft edges and sharp corners. I heard my own breath, shallow and uneven, and the quiet ping of a text landing on my phone like a tiny grenade. Ivy, sister privileges, front row. Wear something elegant, my throat closed. I typed 3 words, then deleted them. I typed nothing, Liam didn't text. He never does the brave thing first. I placed the invitation on my kitchen table and stared until the letters blurred. The words didn't just announce a wedding. They rewrote history, because weeks earlier I had kissed Liam goodnight in our apartment, and watched him tuck his laptop away like a promise. We're good? I'd asked. Always, he'd said. 2 days later, he was gone. A note on the counter, 4 sentences, no apology, and an absence in the closet where his shirts used to live. I thought he'd run from me. Turns out he was running with her. Betrayal makes you a detective against your will. I found the breadcrumbs in my own camera roll, Ivy's reflection in a venue mirror where she had tagged along to help. Liam's hand on a lighting stand, Ivy's hand ghosting the same metal inches away. The way their bodies leaned. In hindsight, every frame was a confession. The worst photo, though, wasn't mine. It was theirs. Ivy posted it a week after he left. A shot at sunset, his arm wrapped around her waist, her smile tilted into his throat. The caption read, "Sometimes love surprises you." Surprise. Right. After the invitation, I called my mother. She answered on the second ring, voice bright with the kind of cheer that feels like a slap. "Sweetheart," she cooed. "Have you seen the envelope? Isn't it gracious of Ivy to include you up front?" I swallowed fire. Gracious? She wants the family together, Mom said. Let's be mature. She's happy. I was happy first, I whispered. A pause. A sigh. Don't make this about you, Nora. I hung up before the burn in my eyes could turn into words I couldn't take back. For 3 days, I floated. Shot a courthouse elopement, delivered an album, smiled for strangers. People cry in front of my lens all the time. Mothers, fathers, brides with trembling hands. And I've learned how to hold space for other people's joy. But my own joy? It had nowhere to go. It paced my apartment like a ghost that couldn't settle. On day 4, I did what I do when my world tilts. I cleaned my lenses. I lined the bodies in a neat row. I checked shutters, charged batteries, and rolled gaffer tape tight. It was muscle memory and prayer. I kept telling myself the same lie. You can outwork grief. That afternoon, the second envelope arrived. Not an invitation, an invoice. Venue, the Glass Garden date, June 17th. Reservation name, Nora Bennett balance paid, Transferred by Ivy Bennett. I blinked at my own name. My hands went cold. The glass garden was my venue, the one Liam and I had toured the year before. I'd put down a deposit the day we decided the light looked like forever. I scrolled to the attached memo and felt my stomach drop. Transfer approved. Sister consolidated the reservation for the new couple. The prior bride withdrew. Withdrew? I hadn't withdrawn anything. I called the venue, voice steady as a tripod. A woman answered cheerfully. Glass Garden, this is Mallory. Hi, Mallory, I said. It's Nora Bennett. I'm calling about a transfer I didn't request. A pause. Paper rustles. Oh, hi, Nora. Yes, the sister said you wanted to gift the date to them. Very generous. I stared at the wall. The sister said? Ivy, Mallory chirped. She had your email. She forwarded a note from your address confirming the transfer. I closed my eyes. Forwarded a note I never wrote. Silence on her end. Then, we sat in that together. Then I thanked her, hung up, and set my phone very gently on the counter, because if I didn't, I'd throw it through the window. Ivy hadn't just stolen my fiancé. She'd stolen my date, my venue, my deposit, and my voice. She'd learned my logins when she helped with planning. She'd hit send in my name. I went very, very still. When rage burns hot, you scream. When it burns true, you get quiet. That night, my best friend Kenzie let herself in with a spare key and found me sitting on the floor. Back against the cabinets, invitation open beside me like a wound. She crouched. Say the word, she said. We don't go. We leave town. Or we show up in red and ruin pictures. Your call. I laughed, a raw sound that didn't feel like mine. What if I do something worse than red? Her eyes widened. Define worse. I looked past her to my cameras, lined up like soldiers waiting for orders. I tell the truth. On their perfect day. In front of the people they care about, impressing. Kenzie studied me. You sure you're ready to be the villain in their story? I didn't answer. Not then, not out loud. But inside, something shifted like a lens snapping into sharp focus. The next morning, I pulled my old hard drives from the closet. I found the mirrors, the touches, the edges where light gave away what bodies meant to hide. I built a folder and named it what it was, Before the Invitation. I don't know when I decided to go to the wedding. Maybe right there on the kitchen floor. Maybe the second Ivy called my silence maturity. Maybe the first time I sniffed the peonies and tasted metal instead of spring. But I did decide. And once I decide, I don't flinch. I zipped a black dress into a garment bag. I slid a spare battery into my pocket. I printed a single 8x10 and tucked it into the invitation sleeve. A photo Ivy thought no one had noticed. Her hand on Liam's chest, months before he left. My reflection catching both of them in the beveled edge of a church window. I ran a finger over the glossy paper and felt my pulse steady. Speak now, the old vows say, or forever hold your peace. I had held my peace long enough. At midnight, a final text lit my screen, an unknown number. If you object to the ceremony, you'll regret it. I looked at the printed photo. Then in my garment bag. The N at the peonies in a vase, already browning at the edges. I'm done regretting, I whispered, and set my alarm for the rehearsal. People like to imagine betrayal begins with one sharp moment. A slammed door, a stolen kiss, a confession. But in my family, betrayal began years before the wedding invitation ever landed in my mailbox. Ivy and I grew up in San Antonio. Two sisters, 4 years apart, but strangers in the same house. Our mother loved to say Ivy was the sparkling one, the girl with the easy laugh, the glossy hair, the knack for walking into a room and making it hers. I was the one with the camera, always in the corner, documenting, quiet. At birthdays, Ivy blew out the candles while I snapped the photo. At Christmas, she unwrapped the biggest gifts while I wrote thank you notes for both of us. At Thanksgiving, she flirted with cousins' boyfriends while Mom laughed it off. Oh, that's just Ivy. And me? I swallowed my discomfort and kept setting the table. Because loyalty was my flaw. I always believed that if I worked hard enough, if I stayed patient, she would one day treat me like a sister instead of a stagehand. When Liam entered my life, I thought things might change. He wasn't flashy. He didn't own a luxury car or wear suits that cost more than my rent. He was steady, warm eyes, easy humor, the kind of man who carried extra water bottles because he worried I'd forget mine on shoots. I met him at 28 while photographing a local art gala. My lighting rig sputtered out mid-event. And there he was, Liam, the rental tech, crouched in his rolled-up sleeves, coaxing the wires like a magician. "Saved me," I said. Breathless. "Then you owe me dinner," he grinned. We dated for 3 years, building a rhythm out of late-night editing sessions and lazy Sundays on the couch. I loved how he looked at me when I worked, like my focus was the most beautiful thing he'd ever seen. I thought Ivy liked him too, but in the safe, sisterly way. She came to brunches, tagged along on wedding shoots, and laughed too loudly at his jokes. I brushed it off. That was just Ivy. Family dinners, though, those were harder to ignore. One night, Ivy poured Liam a glass of wine before anyone else's. My mother raised an eyebrow. "You spoil him, Ivy," she teased. "Better than Nora does," Ivy smirked. Liam laughed it off, squeezing my hand under the table. But I felt the sting. A flicker of something sharp passed through Ivy's eyes. Another time, Dad asked Liam about his career goals. Before Liam could answer, Ivy chimed in. He could do so much better if he weren't stuck carrying equipment for Nora all the time. The room went still. My mother cleared her throat, changed the subject. Liam looked embarrassed. I forced a smile. Because that was what I did, smoothed the rough edges, pretended the cracks weren't there. Looking back, the clues weren't subtle. Ivy's help during shoots turned into monopolizing Liam's attention. Her text to me, "Is Liam coming tonight? Tell Liam to call me about the setup." Shifted from casual to insistent. One evening, I caught her scrolling through Liam's phone while he was in the shower. "What are you doing?" I asked. She smirked, calm as ever. "Just checking if he's planning anything romantic for you." I wanted to believe that. I wanted to believe she was curious, not predatory. Because the alternative, that my sister was circling my future husband, was unthinkable. Our parents fueled the imbalance. When Liam proposed at the end of a summer shoot, down on one knee in the middle of a wildflower field, Ivy was the first call my mother made. Not to me, to her. "Your sister's engaged," Mom said. "You'll help her plan, won't you?" And Ivy, with that feline smile, replied, "Of course. I'll make sure it's perfect." Perfect. The word tasted bitter in my mouth even then. Ivy's perfection was always a mask. In high school, she dated her best friend's boyfriend. In college, she plagiarized a roommate's paper and blamed it on miscommunication. Each time, she walked away unscathed, her charm wrapping the truth in velvet. I thought Liam was different. Too grounded to fall for her tricks. Too loyal to betray me. But loyalty was my weakness, not his strength. The last family dinner before he left should have told me everything. Ivy leaned back in her chair, wine glass tilted, and asked, "Nora, are you sure Liam's the one? I mean, you've always been cautious. Do you even know what you want?" I froze. My fork hovered. Liam shifted uncomfortably. "I know what I want," I whispered. She smirked. "Do you, though?" The room went silent. My mother frowned but said nothing. My father cleared his throat, muttered something about dessert. And Liam, he didn't defend me. He just looked down at his plate. That silence was the beginning of the end. The night I found the wedding invitation on my counter, I thought back to Ivy's smirk, to Liam's silence, to every warning I ignored. Because betrayal doesn't just arrive. It builds, and mine had been building for years. Brick by brick, with my sister smiling as she stacked the walls. The invitation didn't just arrive in the mail. It followed me. Every time I opened my phone, Ivy's posts screamed at me, countdowns to her big day, hashtags dripping with smugness. Love wins, dash forever starts. Now. Photos of her trying on dresses, Liam's hand visible in the mirror, like he'd already erased me. It was almost worse than the betrayal itself. the way they flaunted it. Like rubbing salt into an open wound wasn't enough. They had to pour in acid, too. 3 days after the envelope, I caved and drove to my parents' house. Mom was in the kitchen, humming while stirring a pot of chili, as if the world hadn't collapsed. "I can't believe you expect me to just go," I said. She sighed, setting down the spoon. "Nora, Ivy's your sister. Family is complicated. But we have to move forward." "Forward?" My voice cracked. "She stole my fiancé." Mom winced like I'd used a vulgar word. "Love is messy. Liam wasn't happy, honey. Maybe it's better this way," I whispered. "Better for who?" Ivy breezed in then, her perfume hitting first, sharp and expensive. She smiled like a cat. "Well, well," she drawled. "Did you come to RSVP in person?" "Front row's waiting." I clenched my fists. "Why invite me at all?" Her smile sharpened. "Because I want you to see what happiness looks like. And because—" She leaned closer, whispering so only I could hear. "You never really fit him." My chest tightened. "You don't know what love is, Ivy," she smirked. "Maybe not. But I know how to keep what I want." Liam showed up at my apartment a week later. I'd left his hoodie in a box by the door, ready to toss it in the dumpster. But there he was, knocking, shifting awkwardly, eyes down. "Hey," he said. I stared. "You've got nerve? I just wanted to check on you," he mumbled. My laugh was sharp. "Check on me? After you walked out with a note and showed up on Ivy's arm?" He flinched. "It wasn't like that. Then what was it like?" I snapped. Silence. He shoved his hands in his pockets. "Ivy understands me in ways you didn't," the words sliced. "She understands your bank account," I whispered. He shook his head, muttered, "I didn't come here to fight," and left. I stood in the doorway, heart pounding, watching him walk away again. Eric came over that night with pizza. He found me staring at the untouched box. "Let me guess," he said. Liam showed up. I nodded. "And?" "He said Ivy understands him," I muttered. Eric snorted. "Yeah, she understands opportunism." He studied me, his tone shifting. "You're not going to let them get away with this, are you?" I whispered. "I don't know what to do." He leaned forward, eyes steady. "Then start by not pretending. Stop letting them write the story. Write your own." The cracks kept showing. At a family brunch a week later, Ivy held court at the table, waving her hand so the ring sparkled in the sunlight. "Isn't it gorgeous?" she asked. "Liam said he's never felt more sure of anything." I bit my tongue until blood filled my mouth. My father smiled stiffly, but his eyes darted to me with something unreadable. Then Ivy dropped the bomb. "Oh, and Nora, you'll be glad to know we're using some of your vendors. They loved working with you, so it felt right." My fork clattered. "You mean the vendors I booked for my wedding?" She tilted her head. "Well, technically they were still available." Laughter fluttered around the table, uneasy. I pushed my chair back and stood. "Enjoy the meal," I muttered, storming out. Behind me, I heard Ivy whisper to Mom, just loud enough. She's always been dramatic. That night, I couldn't sleep. I sat scrolling through my old engagement photos, the ones I'd taken with a tripod when Liam wanted to save money on a photographer. In one frame, Ivy stood behind us, holding the reflector, her smile just a little too wide. I zoomed in. Her hand brushed Liam's arm. He didn't pull away. The photo burned into me. Evidence I hadn't wanted to see. The next morning, an anonymous email landed in my inbox. Subject line: "Before she said yes." Inside were 3 photos I'd never taken, grainy, secret shots of Ivy and Liam kissing in the shadows of a church parking lot. And beneath them, one line: "She was stealing him long before you knew." My breath caught. Betrayal had a timeline, and it was longer than I ever imagined. The email replayed in my head for days. Before she said yes. Those photos, grainy but undeniable, etched into my brain. Ivy's hand tangled in Liam's hair, their lips pressed in secret, their bodies close in places I should have been. It confirmed what my gut had screamed all along. Ivy hadn't just stolen Liam in the aftermath. She had been stealing him piece by piece long before I knew, and yet the invitation still loomed. I tried to tell myself I wouldn't go, that I'd mail back the RSVP card with a firm decline and cut ties forever. But the truth? Some twisted part of me wanted to see. To stand there, even in pain, and let them face me. I didn't know then how much that decision would cost. The wedding rehearsal was held at the Glass Garden, the very venue I'd chosen. The glass walls glowed with golden sunlight, the air heavy with flowers I had once dreamed of walking through myself. When I arrived, heads turned. Whispers followed. Ivy, in her white lace dress for the run-through, glided down the aisle with Liam at her side. She smiled at me, wide and smug, and whispered as she passed, "Glad you made it, sis." "Front row, just like I promised." Liam avoided my eyes. At dinner afterward, Ivy clinked her glass. "I want to thank my sister," she announced, voice dripping with faux sweetness. After all, without her, I never would have met Liam. Laughter rippled through the crowd. My stomach churned. "And Nora's been so supportive," Ivy added, "even giving us her venue deposit. Isn't that generous?" The room chuckled again. I froze. The humiliation spread through me like poison. Kenzie, sitting beside me, muttered, "Say the word and I'll flip this whole table." But I couldn't move. I was frozen in place, forced to swallow every ounce of shame while Ivy basked in the glow. The real betrayal came the next day, at the ceremony itself. Ivy had arranged the seating, so I sat dead center, directly facing the altar. As if my heartbreak were part of the decor. When she walked down the aisle, veil floating, Liam waiting with a practiced smile, I felt the entire room glance at me, watching, wondering how the abandoned sister would endure. The vows began. Ivy's voice rang out, smooth and smug. "I promise to love you with honesty and loyalty, things some people can't give." A few guests chuckled. My hands clenched in my lap until my nails dug crescent moons into my palms. Liam followed. "You're my everything," he said, his gaze flicking briefly toward me. "You are worth every risk, every risk." The words sliced through me. He was naming me without naming me. Telling the room my role in their little drama, gasps echoed. Whispers spread. My cheeks burned hot. And then, the officiant's voice. "If anyone here has just cause why these two should not be joined in marriage, speak now or forever hold your peace." The room held its breath. Ivy smirked beneath her veil. Liam's shoulders stiffened, and something inside me cracked. I stood. My voice shook, but it carried. "I object." Gasps erupted. Phones lifted. Ivy's eyes went wide for the first time. Kenzie grabbed my wrist. "Nora, don't—" "But I already had." "I object," I repeated louder. "Because this isn't love. This is theft. This is betrayal. And everyone here deserves to know it." Chaos erupted. Guests whispered furiously, some clutching pearls, others leaning forward like they'd waited their whole lives for this moment. Ivy ripped off her veil, face twisted in fury. "Sit down, Nora," she shouted. Liam muttered, pale. "Not here." "Please, not here," but I wasn't listening. My hand slipped into my clutch, fingers brushing the glossy 8x10 photo I'd tucked inside, evidence of Ivy's betrayal long before she claimed it was fate. I held it up. "This was months before you left me, Liam. Months before you stole him, Ivy. How many lies did you tell to get here today?" Gasps turned into open outrage. My mother's hand flew to her mouth. My father shook his head, muttering, "Dear God." The officiant stammered, "Perhaps. We should." But his words drowned in the noise. Ivy lunged for me, her voice shrill. "You don't get to ruin this." But the photo was already in someone else's hands, passed down the aisle, guests craning to see. And once truth is loose, it can't be caged. The ceremony dissolved into chaos. Half the guests stormed out. The other half whispered furiously, "And me?" I walked out the front doors, my heart hammering, my legs trembling. I had spoken. I had objected. But instead of feeling victorious, I felt raw, like I'd torn open a wound in front of the whole world. That night, alone in my apartment, my phone buzzed with a new message. It was from Ivy. "You think this is over?" You just declared war, and you'll lose. I stared at the screen, tears still burning my eyes, and whispered to the empty room, "Not this time." When I walked out of the glass garden, the Texas heat wrapped me like a punishment. Guests' whispers followed me into the parking lot, clinging like burrs to my skin. I fumbled for my keys, hands shaking so badly I dropped them twice before I could open the car. Inside, I gripped the wheel and sobbed. Not the neat tears of movie heroines, but the kind that rack your ribs and choke your throat until you taste metal. I had done it. I had stood. I had spoken. And yet, instead of relief, I felt hollow, like I had torn myself open in front of everyone, and the pieces scattered into dust. The next few days blurred. I hid in my apartment, blinds drawn, phone buzzing endlessly with messages I couldn't bear to open. Some were from family. Mom, you embarrassed us all. Ivy may never forgive you. Dad, truth should have stayed private. You went too far. Others were from unknown numbers, drama queen. Jealous witch. Enjoy being alone forever, each one sliced deeper. The narrative had shifted. Somehow I was the villain in their story. Kenzie came over on day 3 with takeout and found me curled on the couch in yesterday's clothes. You look like hell, she said. I muttered. That's generous. She sat, handed me a container of noodles. Eat. I pushed it away. Ivy was right. I ruined everything. Kenzie's eyes flashed. No, they ruined everything. You just told the truth, I whispered. But now I'm alone. Kenzie leaned closer. Alone doesn't mean powerless. You're not broken, Nora. You're bent. And bent things can snap back harder than anyone expects. Her words planted something. Small, fragile, but alive. That night, unable to sleep, I pulled out my old hard drives again. I clicked through folders, frame after frame of weddings I'd shot. Smiling couples, parents crying, kids twirling on dance floors, and then, buried in the archives, more photos of Ivy and Liam. Moments I'd overlooked. One shot showed Ivy at the edge of a frame, watching me kiss Liam on the cheek. The look in her eyes wasn't sisterly. It was hunger. Another, from a different shoot, caught Liam leaning a little too close while Ivy laughed, her hand brushing his. The evidence had always been there. My camera had seen it even when I didn't. I sat back, staring at the screen, fury building under my grief. The breaking point came the next morning. I went to the grocery store, hood pulled low, sunglasses on. In the checkout line, I overheard 2 women whispering behind me. She's the sister, right? One murmured. Yeah, the other replied. The one who objected. So pathetic, I froze. My pulse pounded. They didn't know me. But they knew me, at least the version Ivy wanted the world to see. And I realized, if I stayed silent now, if I disappeared, Ivy would win twice. She would have Liam and my reputation. I walked out of that store with more than groceries. I walked out with clarity. Back in my apartment, I caught my reflection in the mirror. Red-rimmed eyes. Messy hair, but beneath the exhaustion was something sharp. I won't stay broken, I whispered to myself. Not for her. Not for him. The words surprised me, but they felt true. That evening, I opened my laptop. Created a new folder. Labeled it Revenge. I dragged in the photos. The emails. The screenshots of Ivy's smug captions, Liam's messages, and the invoice proving she stole my venue. Piece by piece, I built a case, not for court. Not yet. For something bigger. Something public. Because Ivy had humiliated me in front of an audience. And that meant my payback needed an audience, too. Kenzie called that night. How are you holding up? I answered, better, stronger. She paused. That scares me a little. Good, I said. It should scare Ivy more. Kenzie laughed, but there was a nervous edge. You're really going to do this, aren't you? Yes, I whispered. I'm done surviving. It's my turn to strike. As I shut down the laptop, a notification pinged. A new message, anonymous again. Just 4 words this time. Truth burns brighter in public. My chest tightened. Whoever had sent the first email, the one with the secret photos, was still watching. Maybe I wasn't alone after all. Revenge isn't loud at first. It's quiet, patient, like developing film in a dark room. You wait while the truth slowly bleeds onto paper. After the anonymous message, I stopped crying. Stopped flinching at Ivy's name on my phone. Something steadier took root inside me. I wasn't powerless. I had evidence. And now, maybe, I had an ally too. Step 1 was cataloging everything. I laid photos across my floor, arranged like puzzle pieces. Ivy's hand brushes Liam's arm at my engagement party. The reflection of it is too close in the mirror at a wedding shoot. The grainy church parking lot kiss, the stolen invoice for my venue. Each photo, each document, was a tile in a mosaic Ivy couldn't spin away with charm. Kenzie sat cross-legged beside me, chewing on a pen cap. "You're building a murder board," she joked, though her voice was uneasy. "Not murder," I said. "Character assassination." She built her happiness on my bones. I'm done letting her dance on the grave. Step 2, allies. Kenzie was already in, ride or die. But I needed more. I reached out to Marissa, a florist who had worked my engagement party. She'd been the one to nudge me that night. "Your sister's a little handsy with him, huh?" I'd laughed it off then. Now she didn't laugh. "I thought I was crazy," Marissa said. "Glad you're finally seeing it." She agreed to share receipts of Ivy's last-minute switch to use my deposit. Then there was Peter, the DJ. He remembered Ivy pulling Liam into a corner during a slow song while I was in the bathroom. "Didn't sit right with me," he admitted. "Guess my gut was right." Piece by piece, people stepped forward. Not all, but enough. Enough to tell me I wasn't imagining things all along. Step 3. The anonymous ally. They struck again a week later. A thumb drive slid under my door in a plain envelope. No note this time. Just files. I plugged it in, pulse racing. Inside were screenshots. Emails between Ivy and Liam from months before he left me. The subject lines hurt more than the words. "She won't notice." "Almost there." "Imagine her face when she finds out." The words blurred as I read. My sister hadn't just stolen Liam, she enjoyed it. Planned it. Savored the thought of my heartbreak. Kenzie found me shaking at my desk. "Whoever's sending this knows everything," she muttered. "Maybe too much," I whispered. "Then maybe they hate Ivy as much as I do." The plan formed slowly. But it was clear. If Ivy wanted to flaunt her fairy tale in public, then I would expose her nightmare in public. 2. She and Liam had scheduled a post-wedding reception for the wider community, a glitzy event with slideshows, speeches, the works. Their real celebration, since the ceremony had descended into chaos. Perfect stage. Perfect audience. Kenzie raised an eyebrow when I told her. "You're really going to crash it?" "Not crash," I corrected. "Present," she whistled. "Girl, you're terrifying." But revenge needed more than evidence and a stage. It needed delivery. I practiced in front of my bathroom mirror, holding my phone like a mic. "This is who they are," I whispered to my reflection, watching my eyes harden. "They called it love. I call it theft." Some nights, doubt clawed back. What if I looked petty? What if people saw me as bitter, jealous? Then I'd open the folder again. See Liam's words. Imagine her face. And the doubt turned into fire. One evening, as I spread papers across the table, my father called. His voice was quiet, almost tired. "Nora? I don't agree with what Ivy did, but I need you to think carefully." "Revenge changes people," I swallowed. "So does betrayal," he sighed. "You sound like your mother." I almost hung up. But then he added, "Still, if you do this, do it clean. No lies, only truth. That way, no one can twist it back on you." I sat there in silence, stunned. It wasn't approval. But it wasn't condemnation either. Maybe in his own way, Dad was permitting me. The night before the reception, I opened my door to grab dinner delivery and found another envelope waiting. Inside was a single photo. Not of Liam, not of Ivy. It was of me. I, crying on the floor the night after the wedding. Taken through my apartment window and scrawled across the back in sharp black ink. We're watching too. My blood ran cold. I wasn't just the hunter. I was also being hunted. The photo of me crying lingered on my table like a curse. Someone had been close enough to my window to see me at my weakest. I should have been terrified. And part of me was, but another part, the sharper part, filed it away as fuel. If they were watching, then they would see what came next, because I wasn't backing down. The reception was still a week away. Time to loosen Ivy's grip before the main event. First, I leaked. Not everything, just enough. I dropped an anonymous tip to a local wedding gossip blog, the kind that thrives on scandal. I attached one photo, Liam and Ivy kissing in the church parking lot before he ever broke up with me. No names, no dates. Just, sometimes fairy tales start with stolen chapters. By morning, the post had gone viral in our circles. Comments exploded. Is this the new Bennett Ward couple? Looks shady. Wouldn't be surprised, she's always been like that. Ivy's Instagram went dark for 12 hours. Liam's Facebook vanished entirely. Small win. Next, the florist. Marissa texted me screenshots of unpaid invoices, proof that Ivy had stiffed her vendors after hijacking my contracts. I slid them to a few other vendors privately, with a simple message. Check your accounts. Don't let her burn you, too. By the end of the week, Ivy's dream team of suppliers was in chaos. The caterer pulled out. The DJ backed out. Even the decorator refused to touch the reception unless she paid in full up front. Kenzie laughed so hard she nearly cried. She's going to be serving Costco cupcakes at this point. It wasn't the final blow, but it rattled her. The third strike came by accident. I ran into Rebecca, an old high school friend at a coffee shop. She looked nervous, glancing around before whispering, "Nora, you need to know something. Ivy bragged months ago that Liam was just her practice husband. She said she wanted him because you had him, but he's not her endgame." I froze. She said that? Rebecca nodded. She said some guys are ladders. Liam's a ladder. She climbs, then jumps. I walked home in a daze, the words echoing. Liam wasn't just stolen. He was disposable. He just didn't know it yet. And maybe, I thought, exposing that truth would hurt him even more than losing me. The fourth strike? Face to face. Ivy cornered me outside Mom's house, sunglasses low, voice dripping venom. "You're pathetic, Nora. All these little games, these rumors, it's desperate." I smiled. "Funny, you sound nervous." She leaned closer. "If you try anything at the reception, I swear I'll bury you." I met her eyes, steady. "Then you'd better start digging." For the first time, Ivy flinched. Just a flicker. But it was enough to taste. And then Liam showed up. I was leaving my apartment when he intercepted me in the parking lot. His face was pale, his shirt wrinkled, like he hadn't slept. "Can we talk?" he asked. I crossed my arms. "About what?" "Your honeymoon registry?" He winced. I didn't know it would go this far. "The gossip, the vendors. This is killing us." I raised an eyebrow. "Good." His voice cracked. "Ivy's not who you think she is." I laughed, bitter. "Oh, I think she's exactly who I know she is." He grabbed my arm, desperate. "You don't understand. I yanked free. "Save it, Liam. You made your bed. Now you get to lie in it. With her." He stood there, shoulders slumped, and for once, I walked away first. By the time the reception drew near, Ivy and Liam were fraying. Rumors swirled. Vendors dropped. Friends whispered. The fairy tale was cracking piece by piece. And me? I was calmer than I had been in months. Kenzie sat beside me as we finalized the slideshow. "You're scaring me with how chill you are." I smiled faintly. "That's the thing about truth. Once you decide to show it, the fear disappears." The night before the reception, another envelope slid under my door. My hand shook as I opened it. Inside wasn't a photo this time. It was a USB drive. A single file inside labeled, "Her Real Secret." I stared at the screen, pulse pounding. Whatever was on that drive, it was bigger than stolen kisses or unpaid invoices. It was the kind of truth that could burn everything down. The USB drive sat on my desk like a loaded gun. Her real secret, I almost didn't open it. My hands hovered, my breath shallow. But curiosity is stronger than fear. And revenge. Revenge demands courage. I clicked. Inside was a folder of emails. Not just between Ivy and Liam, but Ivy and someone else. A man named Daniel, wealthy, married, promising her real status once he left his wife. And there it was, in black and white. Liam's just a stepping stone. When Daniel's free, I'll finally have what I deserve. My stomach flipped. Ivy hadn't just betrayed me. She was betraying Liam, too. And she was stupid enough to leave a paper trail. Whoever sent me this wasn't just helping. They wanted her destroyed. The reception buzzed like a hive when I arrived. The glass garden glowed with string lights. Guests clutched champagne flutes, laughter chiming as though nothing was wrong. Ivy floated through the room in a second gown, sleek, glittering, smug. Liam trailed behind, his smile brittle, his eyes restless. Kenzie squeezed my arm. "You ready?" I nodded. My heart pounded, but my hands were steady. Ivy's gaze landed on me across the room. She smirked, lifted her glass, and mouthed, "Don't try it." I smiled back. "Watch me." Halfway through dinner, the MC clinked a glass. A slideshow prepared by the bride and groom. Perfect timing. As the lights dimmed, I slipped to the back where the projector sat. My USB slid in cleanly, my file replacing theirs with a click that echoed like thunder in my chest. The screen lit up, not Ivy's curated montage of sunsets and kisses, but mine. The first photo, Ivy and Liam in the church parking lot, kissing in the dark, months before he left me. Gasps rippled across the room. Next, the mirror shot from a wedding shoot, Ivy's hand on Liam's back while I smiled in the reflection. Whispers spread like wildfire. Chairs creaked as people leaned forward. Then came the emails. White text on black background. Ivy's words. "She'll never see it coming. Liam's just a ladder." Someone shouted, "Oh my God." Another muttered, "That's cold." And then, the final slide. The email to Daniel. "Once you're free, I'll leave Liam. He's ordinary." "You're the future." The room exploded. Ivy shot to her feet, face scarlet, screaming, "Turn it off! Turn it off!" Liam stood frozen, pale as death. His mouth opened, but no words came. I stepped forward, voice steady. "This is who my sister is. She stole my fiancé. She stole my venue. She lied to every single one of you. And while she flaunted her fairy tale, she was planning her next theft." Gasps turned to outrage. A woman at the back hissed, "Disgusting." Someone else muttered, "I knew she was fake." Ivy lunged toward me, shrieking, "You vindictive witch! You think this makes you better than me?" I didn't flinch. "No, it makes me free." Liam finally found his voice. "Ivy, is it true?" She spun on him, wild-eyed. "Of course not." "They're lies?" But the emails glowed on the screen behind her, undeniable. Liam's face crumpled. He ripped off his tie, voice cracking. "You ruined me. I made you," she screamed. "You were nothing before me." And just like that, their perfect facade collapsed in front of everyone. Security moved in as guests began to leave, muttering, shaking their heads. Ivy clawed at my arm, but Kenzie shoved her back, eyes blazing. "Touch her again and see what happens." Ivy was dragged away, shrieking that I had ruined her life. Liam sat slumped in a chair, head in his hands. For once he didn't look smug. He looked small. I stood in the center of the wreckage, my chest heaving, my voice low but steady. This wasn't just about me. It was about every person she's ever stepped on. And tonight, she finally tripped. Later that night, back in my apartment, I poured water and stared at the city lights. Another envelope waited at my door. Inside was a note, handwritten this time. "You wanted truth. Now you have it. But remember, truth burns everyone, even you." My stomach knotted, because for the first time I wondered, had I just destroyed Ivy? Or had I lit a fire that could still come for me? The morning after the reception, my phone lit up like fireworks, news feeds, blogs, screenshots spreading across Austin faster than wildfire. Headlines bloomed, Bennett sisters. War erupts at Glass Garden. Bride exposed with secret emails during her own reception. Local photographer publicly shatters sister's fairy tale wedding. And the photos. Oh, the photos. Ivy mid-scream, makeup streaked, her dress askew. Liam was sitting slumped, hollow-eyed. And me, standing tall with the mic, calm as the storm that had already passed. The fallout was swift. Vendors blacklisted Ivy. The decorator posted a furious thread about liars who don't pay their bills. The caterer confirmed she'd been stiffed. By the end of the week, Ivy was trending locally for all the wrong reasons. Liam's construction business tanked overnight. Investors pulled out, unwilling to tie their names to scandal. His social media disappeared, but not before screenshots of his text to Ivy, smirking about ladder climbing, went viral. They'd wanted to humiliate me in front of everyone. Instead, they'd humiliated themselves on a stage bigger than either of them ever imagined. Family dinners turned poisonous, Mom called first. Her voice was sharp, brittle. "Do you have any idea what you've done to this family?" I whispered. I told the truth. "You exposed your sister like some stranger," she snapped. "Blood doesn't do that. Blood doesn't steal fiancés," I shot back. Silence. Then a slam of the phone. Dad was quieter. He came by with a box of my childhood things Mom wanted gone. He didn't say much. Just, sometimes truth is necessary. Doesn't mean it won't cut. His eyes lingered on me with something like respect. Or maybe a warning. Ivy tried to fight back online. She posted a tearful video, mascara running, claiming I had fabricated the emails, that I'd been jealous all along. But within hours, someone leaked her messages to Daniel, the wealthy man she'd been stringing along. Screenshots spread. The mask slipped completely. Daniel's wife filed for divorce. Daniel dropped Ivy like a stone. The comments under Ivy's video were brutal. "Girl, we saw the receipts. You used everyone, now you're shocked? Karma looks good on you." By the end of the week, her video was deleted. Her accounts went silent. Liam tried to reach me. He showed up at my apartment one night, shadows under his eyes smelling of whiskey. "Nora," he said, "I made a mistake. I see that now. I should never have—" I held up a hand. "Stop, you chose her." "Over me? Over us," he flinched. "She played me." "You know she did." I shook my head. "You let her." "That's the difference." His shoulders sagged. "I thought she was worth the risk." I finished, my voice sharp. "Then live with it." For once, he didn't argue. He just walked away, smaller than I'd ever seen him. But revenge isn't clean. Even when you win, pieces of you stay burned. At night, I still heard Ivy's scream echoing in my head. Still felt the sting of Mom's words. Blood doesn't do that. Still wonder who kept sending me evidence. Who took that photo of me crying? Who whispered from the shadows? Kenzie tried to ease my mind. "Who cares who helped? They handed you the knife, but you swung it." I nodded. But sometimes, alone in the quiet, I wondered if that knife was double-edged. One afternoon at a cafe, a stranger tapped my shoulder. An older woman, eyes tired but kind. "You're the Bennett girl," she said. "The one who exposed her sister." I stiffened. "That's me," she nodded slowly. "Good for you. My husband cheated with my sister." I never said a word. "Been swallowing it for 20 years. Watching you made me wish I had spoken." Her words sat heavy in my chest. For the first time, I realized my revenge wasn't just for me. It was for every woman who had been told to be quiet, to smile, to move on. That evening, another envelope slid under my door. No photos this time. No files. Just one sentence scrawled in sharp black ink. "It's not over. Blood remembers." I stared at the words, my pulse pounding. I had burned Ivy's world to the ground. But the ashes were still smoldering, and I had to decide. Was I done? Or was I ready to strike again if she rose from them? The final envelope sat on my table for 2 days before I opened it again. "It's not over. Blood remembers." I stared at those words until they blurred. Maybe it was Ivy. Maybe someone else who thrived on the chaos. Either way, the truth was simple. I had a choice. I could spend the rest of my life in battle with her shadow. Or I could decide the war was over. I started small. I blocked her number. Deleted Liam's old messages. Cleared the folder on my desktop labeled Revenge. Not because I was erasing what happened, but because I'd already won. Ivy's accounts were gone. Her social circle had turned to dust. Liam was a ghost in his own life, scrambling to rebuild without investors or trust. And me? I was still here, standing, breathing, stronger. One Sunday morning, I went to the park with my camera. For the first time in months, I wasn't documenting betrayal. I was capturing light, children chasing bubbles, a couple laughing on a bench, a dog leaping into the air, all joy. Behind the lens, my chest loosened. I remembered why I loved photography. It wasn't about holding on to pain. It was about freezing joy so it couldn't slip away unnoticed. Kenzie joined me, handing me coffee. She studied me for a long moment. "You look lighter," she said. "I feel lighter," I admitted, for the first time. A week later, Dad called. His voice was quiet. "You did what you thought was right." I swallowed hard. "Do you hate me for it?" A pause. Then, Ivy made her choices. "You just revealed them. Don't carry her guilt on your back." It wasn't forgiveness, but it was released. And that was enough. Ivy never resurfaced. Not publicly, at least. Whispers said she left town, chasing another man, another life. Liam disappeared into obscurity, his name a cautionary tale in hushed conversations. Sometimes late at night, I thought about them. Did they blame me for their downfall? Of course. Did it matter? Not anymore, because revenge wasn't about them in the end. It was about me. I had been loyal to a fault. Loyal to a sister who saw me as competition. Loyal to a man who saw me as disposable. Loyal to silence, even when the truth screamed in my chest. But when I stood at that wedding and said, "I object," I wasn't just objecting to Ivy and Liam. I was objecting to every version of myself that thought I had to stay quiet. That was the moment I stopped being powerless. Life isn't a fairy tale. It's messy. Betrayal leaves scars. Revenge leaves shadows. But empowerment, that leaves wings. And I had finally grown mine. If this story touched you, please like and subscribe. Tell me, would you forgive betrayal like this? Or would you walk away forever? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments.